I gotta be honest with you, the entire reason for the stop in today's badge cam makes my ass itch. Hi friends, welcome to today's lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, John Correa.
And I am your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from Jonesboro, Arkansas.
I gotta tell you, I think that the actions in the moment on this one are probably, well, not probably, certainly justified, but we're gonna have to talk about the way this one starts.
The Storm Hunter WX weather app is free to download and use and provides you with warning of severe weather even before the National Weather Services issue alerts. This advanced weather app is an important tool for awareness of severe weather that I use every day. Download and use it totally free without in-app purchases on iOS or Android at the link below.
The officer is patrolling in this neighborhood on an increased drug activity patrol. And he's gonna run across a 22-year-old man who is just walking home from the store. He is going to initiate a stop via that. We do have audio. This one's gonna go real sideways in a hurry, so let's listen in.
We're going with the Jonesboro Police Department. The reason I'm getting out with you, man, we're just doing a little bit of drug interdiction in the area. We're just trying to get to know people also. There's a little bit of community policing, okay? Do what? Hey, come here. Come here. I can smell marijuana on you. Come here.
Oh, you're lying.
Come here.
You're lying.
Come here.
No.
Hey, come here.
Smell marijuana,
Come
bro.
here.
What are
Come
you
here.
doing?
I will take. Come here.
No, you're
Come
making
here.
me nervous.
Come here. On the ground.
Stop.
No.
Please.
Give me your hand.
No.
Give me your hand.
I can't.
Give me your
I
hand.
cannot, bro. I
Give me
didn't
your
do
hand.
nothing.
Give me your hand.
No.
We got one fighting. Give me your hand.
No.
Quit reaching for whatever you're reaching for. Give me your hand. Let go. Let go. I promise you, if that's a gun, it's not going to end well for you.
I know it's not.
Give me your hand. This man, shots fired. Shots fired. I took one round to the leg.
You bet you took one round to the
Go.
leg?
Go. 10-4.
Copy.
Yeah, yeah, fucking.
What units is that?
I'm good. This much, I'm 10-4. She's bleeding a little bit from the leg.
10-4, we've got EMS and out and staging. Where's your suspect?
We are right in front of Warren. West of Warren. Still on Spruce. Towards the heart, go ahead. Towards the heart. EMS is on the way. EMS is on the way.
Dude did pull a gun on the officer and shot him in the leg, which caused the officer to draw his own firearm, shoot twice at the guy, hit him once in the head, which proved to be fatal. The officer is expected to make a full recovery. He was cleared by the district attorney of any criminal wrongdoing, but a judge did authorize the family's pursuit of a civil action against the department and against the officer for denial of civil rights. Mike, is this the place where we're going to get yelled at because, we hate cops?
Yeah, it seems like we're either bootlicking cop lovers or we're anti-government, and we're neither of those things.
Sometimes in the same video. Let's just call balls and strikes and talk about what happened here. So Mike, I know that people's first question here, and my first question too for that matter, is a question of the validity of this stop. So, okay, an officer who has reasonable articulable suspicion that crime may be afoot can start an investigation, but that's not enough to get an actual detention. And he pulls out here and doesn't say, hey, can you come here and talk to me? This wasn't a voluntary stop. He gave his little speech and then said, come here. That is a detention and requires probable cause. So I'm really sketchy as to whether this entire contact is right.
Yeah, John, it's tough to say. We talked about, he said he smelled marijuana, and we could talk about that a little bit more in a little bit here, but I don't know if this officer knew this guy or had some other information that we're not privy to. That's always a possibility. It doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like they were familiar with each other or that he had, some other independent information that we don't have. The fact that the local courts are allowing the civil suit to go forward tells me something that maybe we do have all the information, but I don't know, to be honest with you. And I want to say from the start here, we're going to separate these two things. There's two things that are going on here. One is the detention itself, the legality of the detention, the wisdom of this detention at this time in this place under these circumstances, and then there is the actual shooting. And John and I, we both have issues with the detention. We don't love it. The shooting itself, assuming the detention was lawful, the shooting was obviously very justified. He'd just been shot by this guy. So these are two different things that we're discussing here. The detention itself I don't love. I think what's important now is the WIN is an acronym that got used by, I think it was Police Magazine or someone a while back. And it was a campaign to ask cops to just use their common sense. So things like wear your seatbelt, is a pursuit worth it? Should I make this stop right now under these circumstances with no backup? That sort of thing. So I guess the question is, what is the potential upside of stopping this young man versus a potential downside? Now, he can't possibly know all the contingencies, all the possible outcomes, but I don't love the stop. I would rather maybe he waited to get another person there with him or whatever. I don't know what time it is. It's, according to the timestamp, what is it, 10:30 at night? Yeah, it's late. But with that said, I know a lot of people in the comments are going to be pounding their keyboards talking about how we're anti-cop and this cop did the right thing. Maybe, maybe not. I don't love the detention in the first place because what were we expecting to find here? I don't know. I can't imagine he was anticipating. This guy doesn't look like a gangbanger or, a troublemaker. At best, at worst, he's probably the local pot dealer.
Yeah, but you got to also think about the fact, okay, it is illegal in Arkansas to consume marijuana recreationally, which I think is stupid. I think that needs to come off the federal Schedule 1 list decidedly. Now, that doesn't change the officer's perspective, though. He's like, look, man, I'm looking for, dirtbags doing dirtbag stuff. I find somebody, I smell marijuana. Marijuana use is against the law, except for it's possible that this young man had a medical card, and medical marijuana in the state of Arkansas is legal. So just smelling marijuana is not probable cause that a crime has been committed. It might be reasonable, articulable suspicion that crime could be afoot if he doesn't have a card, but I think it's an awful big stretch to say that it is probable cause. You may also say, well, the guy's carrying a gun. Arkansas is a constitutional carry state. He has a right as an adult who's not a prohibited possessor to carry a firearm on his person. And so that's not illegal, and the officer didn't say, hey, I see a gun on you anyway. So the whole thing of developing probable cause here was because of, aha, I smell marijuana. But to me, again, I think that this is one of those where the better sense of valor goes, do I really need to instigate this stop? Is this really worth what happens? And I think if we go back and do it over, the officer probably is like, whatever, dude, have a nice night, because I don't end up in a shooting.
Yeah, I don't get shot in the foot. I don't end up on the national news. I don't end up potentially at the wrong end of a lawsuit. As I watch these sorts of videos, these sorts of street stops, I think to myself, I would love for two things to happen. One, for there to be more two deputy vehicles, and or there's another deputy or officer nearby before he stops so he can get some cover, some backup there. There's some videos coming up where, where there was some contact made by an officer or a deputy, and you're like, maybe if you'd have waited a couple minutes and not started this process and gotten someone else there, this might have gone differently. Not saying it would have. The other thing I'd like to see is a lot more, not talking about de-escalation here so much as build a rapport, be creative, and figure out how to talk someone into, be like a car salesman, how to keep someone from leaving the showroom, overcome their objections, but find a way to contact someone consensually and not force the issue so early on. Now, was this guy going to be consensually stopped? I kind of doubt it. It seemed like he was in no mood to talk to that cop, but that's his right. Not to, if the constabulary stops you, you have the right to say nothing. I don't want to talk to you. Goodbye. Keep walking. He did that, and then there was a definitive stop when he said, "Hey, come here." Now he's not free to leave, and so that kind of completes the initial portion of this. As far as, was the stop legal? Maybe. Was the stop wise? Maybe not.
And then now listen. So from this point forward, we're going to talk merely about controlling this guy, not getting shot, and not ending up in a shooting, okay? I'm going to say he gets on the ground with this guy, and listen, you got to be able to get this guy's hands under control. Remember, the eyes may be the windows to the soul, but the hands are the windows to the intent. Yes, that means you got to be able to use your weight, whether that's wrestling, catch wrestling, sambo, jiu-jitsu, something like that, that you're going to have to pursue off duty. You're going to have to pursue on your own time and on your own dime to have the skills to keep this guy flat on his belly so that he can't draw a gun from here and control his hands so that you can get the situation under control before he gets a gun out. Because when he says, hey, if there's a gun in here, this isn't going to end badly, the guy says, I know. And man, at this point, you got to recognize, if I don't get this under control right now, I could die today.
Yeah, we talked about this on another video. The George Floyd thing aside, kneeling on necks is almost never a good idea, so don't do that. However, spinning around like a wrestler, or even more like a wrestler than jiu-jitsu, spinning around to get to the front of this guy to put a knee on his right or left shoulder blade and pin his neck and head and shoulders to the ground, even if he can produce that gun from underneath him, he's going to have a really hard time getting an angle on you to shoot you. And even if he kind of sort of does, you're going to be able to defeat that. You're going to be able to grab that wrist, that hand, step on it, do something. So this positioning isn't great. I'm not giving this officer too much of a hard time. He had to respond very quickly to a very rapidly evolving situation. But what we do here at Active Self-Protection on the badge cams, we try to give the next officer or deputy a moment to go through a mental rep and see this in their head and see, this could happen to me very easily. This is not an uncommon thing. So if it happens to me, what can I do to not end up shot in the knee? So that's what the point we're trying to get across here.
Yeah, and listen, again, okay, he calls in on the radio, I need some help, whatever. Now I got to control this guy so that the gun doesn't come out, because if the gun ends up coming out, which it does, now we're in a deadly force encounter. Now I could lose my life here. And again, the guy ends up drawing a gun, shooting the officer in the leg. Now we're in absolutely a deadly force encounter. I will say this, officer gets his gun out. What you can kind of see from the angles here, I'm almost certain the guy's kind of up and the officer's got an elbow on the ground. And so he fires a shot from very close range, but it missed. And again, misses don't end gunfights. You cannot miss fast enough to win a gunfight, but you can hit slow enough to lose one. And in these close environments, people assume, oh, it's a given, it's an automatic. It's not an automatic, friends. You still have to aim the gun, even if it's a very rough aiming, like indexing based on, the slide velocity.
Yeah, this is something you can practice in force on force. It's something you can practice on the flat range as far as getting your gun out and point shooting from a very close distance. It's something I was very good at, still am. And I would say this, understand we've crossed the threshold from, is this stop legal now, to is this shooting justified? The stop aside, now from this point on, we're assuming, okay, the stop was legal. We're just gonna stipulate to that, even whether or not it was is beside the point. Now we're in this point now where this officer is grappling with this guy who has a gun. He's acknowledged basically, yeah, I do have a gun, and yeah, I do intend on using it by his words. And now you've got to be in this fight. You've got to be present in this fight, and part of that means that first shot needs to count, because he doesn't have control over this guy right now. This guy could spin around and get another shot, a fatal shot potentially. So it's critical that you're close in, down and dirty, bad breath distance, and other cliches. Marksmanship is top notch, and that you cannot be defeated. And this also comes back to mental fitness, mental and spiritual fitness. Nothing else is on my mind in this moment. I'm not worried about the fight I have with my wife or husband, or my kids failing history class, or whatever else is going on, or that promotion I didn't get. I'm fixated on this moment in time right now and defending my life and protecting myself from being killed. And the mental fitness to be, okay, you're going to shoot me in the knee. I got something for that. Here's what I got for that, and make that first shot count. Because potentially, you're rolling around like this, all sorts of goofy stuff can happen. Not to mention, if you have a semi-contact shot, getting your gun out of battery. So that first shot was really, really important, despite the close proximity of these two people in this shooting.
And listen, he did put a good shot on the guy in the moment from very close range. I will say here, what I see pretty regularly, again, and this is a good thing, the officer didn't put the gun directly in contact with his head, had enough clearance there that he didn't have an out of battery problem, didn't have a fouling of the gun problem, and this is a very good thing, and it definitively ended the threat. Now listen, is it justified to shoot this man in the head? Absolutely. At that moment, he's already shot me, we're wrestling over his gun. This is a 50-50. The officer absolutely has the right to protect their life. When this guy pulls a gun on him, he didn't have reason to pull a gun on the officer at all, even if it was an unlawful stop. So let me say this from the private citizen perspective. If this was an unlawful stop, you go, oh, okay, well, I have a right to protect myself against an unlawful arrest. Fight the cop in court, all right? His badge cam is on, because otherwise stuff like this happens. You go, no, I'm gonna get my gun out and fight this cop, and you end up dead, all right? So from the private citizen's perspective, that made no sense in the universe whatsoever. Even if it's an unlawful detention, make sure the officer's badge cam is on, turn your cell phone on, put it in your pocket or whatever so you have some evidence, and let your lawyers take them to the cleaners in court. Okay, the gunfight is over, the officer is alive, this man is gone. I mean, obviously the shot to the head is instantly fatal. Now the officer is shot, and he is gonna have to hobble himself all the way back to his cruiser to go and get his med kit. I can't tell you officers enough, you need to have a med kit on your person. That med kit needs to have a tourniquet as part of it that you know how to apply. One of this guy's other problems is that he doesn't really know how to apply this tourniquet. Now I get it, he's stressed out in the moment, but you need to stage that tourniquet correctly in your medical kit. It needs to be on your person. You need to know how to apply it to yourself, how to apply it to an arm, how to apply it to a leg, and you need to be able to do that now. Now, given all the facts here, I don't know that the officer actually needed a tourniquet, because he probably would have bled out before he gets one on if he actually needed one. That said, prophylactically, we use them. We say, hey, if I'm shot in the leg, it doesn't hurt anything to put it on high and tight and then let somebody else assess the wound, because I may not have time to see it, may not be able to assess how much I'm bleeding. So please, officers, keep your med kit on your person, know how to use it, take your stop the bleed training very, very seriously so that you don't have these kinds of problems. Because quite frankly, I think, Mike, if he had actually needed a tourniquet here, he probably would be dead.
He would have had problems for sure. This is a quick note to all the trainers, all the heads of training departments out there that might be watching this. If you're not doing realistic stop the bleed training for your agency, or finding someone to come in and do it for you, and I'm talking about where you have, the gal that did it for us was fantastic. She brought in big hunks of sides of beef, and she had a Kool-Aid blood flowing out of them, and it was very realistic. So if you don't have some kind of training like that for your officers, you're deficient. You need to fix that. You need to get that training done. And for officers, I want to reiterate what John said. You have to have it on your person. If it is anywhere other than on your person, physically attached to you, it's potentially useless, because if he was bleeding harder or had a really bad arterial bleed, he wouldn't have made it to that car to get that tourniquet. He never would have made it that far. He'd have bled out. It would have been a really bad day. And officers, make sure you know how to use your equipment. If your agency's not giving you the training, go out, find Red Cross or somebody that'll give you the training to save your life, the lives of your partners, people in your community, to better protect everyone's ass.